Hey folks, Nick Tuckert here with the Historical Fencing Guild. Before we get into what we do, one, I need to apologize for running slightly late. Unavoidable transportation issues kicked on, and it took me a while to get here. So I've literally just slid into the house, dropped off my bag and things, and we're getting this rolling. I do have some interesting conversation for today, so thank you for those of you who show up late or otherwise. Now, before anything else happens, I need to remind you guys that the Historical Fencing Guild is made possible by sales of the Simple Sword, the Fighting Axe, and the Simple Spear, all part of my ongoing series of Western martial arts manuals designed to help you go from having never handled a sword to teaching the art to others. My other fiction books, including Haints and Hellfire, A Dark Secret is Claimed 2 Lives, and is hunting an innocent child at the edge of the Appalachian Mountains. Only a reporter, her cameraman, a spunky reporter, her cameraman, and a very odd cat stand against the forces of darkness. I'm sorry, I had to remember the lead into that from memory, and I'm a little fuzzy. We're also made possible by the list of people who are scrolling across the bottom. You guys are incredible. Got some requests, got some commentary. We're going to discuss some things tonight. So first off, if I do the open letter to Peter Jackson, it will not be a live stream video. It will be pre-recorded. Am I tempted to do an open letter to Peter Jackson? Yes. Am I going to? One must ponder. I'm kind of seeing this as a Bilbo Smog situation. I don't want to get devoured, so we shall see. That being said, I do have quite a few things to say about Sting versus Bilbo's sword. I wish they would at least keep it named. And the name Bilbo as a sword. Not to argue with the great professor himself. And I'm not talking about the little blue Muppet. That being said as well. Hi, folks. I have had some requests. And as things are going on, I want to try to meet with them. So, going over it, because I ended up repeating myself quite a bit as any day goes on, we're going to bring up the whiteboard of doom, and we're going to get right into it. The question was, how do I armor and train on a height budget? This is a great question. This is a wonderful question, and I am very pleased to be of use to it. So, to answer the question that was posed, how do I armor and train on a tight budget? There are a couple factors that need to do. First off, train for what? I need to know what are you training for? Do you have a group in mind? Do you have a organization that has standings? So first we're going to go with the if then. If you have a group with, we'll just do that, conventions, remembering that conventions, not as in a meeting where people see cosplayers, but conventions as a set of rules everybody follows. You have to align with those conventions. Sorry, guys. Basically, if there are rules, you have to follow them. That usually means that there is... Actually, let's undo that part. This option usually includes fixed curriculum, testing, and arms and armor standards. And yes, I know my handwriting's a little odd today. Sorry about that. I have some spasms going on. I'm doing the best I can with what I've got. Okay. These all may be considered the negatives, the cons, but the pros are usually trainers, loaner gear, and community support. Okay? Usually. Not always, but usually. So let's break this up so we can just keep following where we're going. Okay? Cool. If you are going... No, this is further... Likely there are paid, oops, that's not how we spell that, paid dues, theoretically these dues cover your, no, covering, let's do this, insurance, equipment use, training, we'll say trainers actually, because, and facilities. All right. Understanding that all this good stuff does need money. It's just the only way to do it that way. If someone is saying, this is why the conventions oftentimes exist So we need to talk about the conventions for a second so that you understand why. So let's pull this out, give me a new layer, hide this layer, and we're going to get reasons for conventions. Physical safety. This should be self-explanatory, but by having conventions that dictate what kind of gear you are training with, ensures everyone is keeping things as safe, as balanced as possible. Because if we come over here, one of the clauses I have is type versus type. So this is a quasi-convention that basically states plastic style trainers don't spar against steel. If you take a plastic polypropylene shield, for example, and you use it a lot against steel trainers, it will get chewed up. If you use a steel blade against a polypropylene blade, it will get chewed up. The polypropylene, obviously, it's softer. It will greatly and rapidly shorten the expected lifespan of that trainer. This is why we avoid that. That's number here. Okay, we're going to leave this. Physical safety does, include the aforementioned the gear, and technique. Note, never, ever under any circumstances spar with live steel. People who know me know I am always going to be prone to give you guys wiggle room. If this, then this, but you can mutate it. You can roll it around. You can see how it works for you. When I say never, ever, ever, under any circumstances, here, we'll make this ever squared, okay? Never, ever, 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 under any circumstances, spar with live steel. If somebody wants you to do spar with live steel, leave. Hold on, I want to make this crystal clear. If someone wants you, I dropped my stuff. If someone wants you to spar using live steel, perhaps they're claiming machismo. Perhaps they say, oh, it's okay, it's choreographed. I don't give I cannot swear enough on the platforms that I'm on to express how little I care. Leave. Okay? Leave. Furthermore, it's probably a better idea not to associate that much with that individual because they are mentally ill. Okay? I don't want to see anyone hurt. I have seen people hurt. I know of people being killed doing stupid things like that. This is part of why you need conventions of some sort. And even if you don't, even if you have no conventions to start with, here, let's see. We'll just do this because it'll make it easier for me to manage. Never, ever, ever spar under any circumstances with live steel. Never, ever, ever. Never, ever, ever, ever. Have I made my point or do I need to continue? I will. I could spend an hour going on about that. Now, technique. This comes into why you are training. We'll go easy. If sport for the rules of the game. Okay, that's easy. The conventions that say you have to do this are for the rules of the game. This is the good example is right of way in Olympic fencing. It's the you can only use swords in that, but mostly things like that. Many of these rules are ingrained in the technique, especially of a sporterized form, for the purpose of scoring points, for the purpose of amusing the crowd, for the purpose of tradition, which gets close to history, so we're going to not go too far down that route. But most of all, it's usually rules for safety, okay? Which comes back around to physical safety. If for history then it is to better understand those that came before. So we're going to put this Olympic fencing. You understand? This Arma, Hema, some SCA. Okay. Understanding the technique. I have some Chinese. I've looked into a lot. I think for the avid practitioner of this pursuit, it is the how hints to the why. The how you fight tells much about why you're fighting, and the why you fight and vice versa. Vice versa. Okay. Does that make sense? Well, I hope so. If you want to understand the history, that means study manuals, texts, artifacts. You go to the Historical Museum and you look at in 1873 Carlos IV, Spanish colonial side sword, broadsword, Bilbo / Caribe, and you go, why is it this way? Oh, because they had to fight under, in tight quarters. Why is it wide and slicey? So it would be light, but prone to cut, very effective, and they weren't fighting a lot of body armor. You start to understand, and it brings you back to looking at the studies. This is the academic. Okay. Let me look at this real quick. We're still continuing with the technique. Why are you training? Competition. Competition. You're doing it to test your metal. To learn and transcend your limitations. Yes, you are more than. This is being deliberately set up so that you can take notes. Feel free to have a notepad running, typing, whatever you need to do, except the use of AI, because I oppose the use of AI for a great many things. To learn and understand what we're talking about. Okay. Anyway, set your limitations. This is where we start getting into some very interesting territory. We'll get back to that after achieve social, economic. Yeah, I said that. Physical. dominance. Yeah. You want to be big man on campus. Nothing wrong with that. This is where you find glory prizes / sponsors. This one's hard for me. Personal fulfill. I just misspelled that for one. I have some learning disabilities. I work around them. Identity. Believe it or not, we're going to talk a bit about this park and this park quite a bit in the next one. Recovery. This is all of them. This is all of them to one extent or another. Don't let it fool you. Every group where two people get sparring, this is going on some level. I really wish Carl Witzman were watching. He'd enjoy this lecture. But to do adaptation recovery, to do what you and others didn't believe you could. Especially in response to injury.
Sure.
Thank you, son.
Got this.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I'm
streaming right now.
Oh, I am so sorry.
It's okay, son. I'll be okay. We'll talk later.
No, I'm doing it from a water bottle.
In response to injury, disability, and trauma. Regain. Whoops. Again, Captain Dyslexia got hold of me there. That's aphasia. Have fun with that. Regain personal power / never again. people who have incurred specific types of trauma that I have known, and I'm not a mental health professional, I'm just a guy who's been through a lot, and it tends to associate with others who do. Please consult your medical professional and your mental health professional before you engage in any of this, as well as any legal professionals you may need. This is inherently dangerous. Please, I cannot stress how careful you should be. But my family is a saying, I'm going to go big here for a second. And this goes out to all the people I know who are on the verge of taking up training, especially, that have spoken to me in private. This is one of those where I know the comments asking this will never appear on the side of my stream, but they're always going to appear in my messenger and in my email and in soft whispered tones, aside from groups. My family has a saying, have they met their Waterloo? Now, this is obviously a historical reference to Napoleon's absolute trouncing at Waterloo. But in this case, it means, have you gone through a crucible where you have done everything in your power given everything you had and have it be totally inconsequential? I personally have been beaten many times by many people in many ways. I have never been a particularly large, imposing, or powerful individual. But when I tell you the difference in emotional, in spiritual damage that is incurred from trying your best and getting stomped and not even being able to go that far. It is a different mentality to have no power in a physical altercation. To be so inconsequential, literally, you have neither the skills, nor the physical strength, nor the equipment to affect any change on what's going on. And going through that can unmake a person. It can remake a person. There is a loss because you have proven to yourself that remember, power is the ability. The easiest definition of power in modern society, conversationally, for this is the ability to make someone do something irregardless of their consent. I'm not even saying opposing or with their consent is completely irrelevant. That is the cruelest measure of power, and that is one of the definitions. There is a different type of power. We're going to discuss that in a moment. But when the only reason you are still living is a matter of luck, is a matter of intervention from outside forces. When you are intimately and completely aware of the loss of your ability to personally guide or move forward with your life, you have not even the illusion of control. Your preference is nothing. That is a lot like breaking a glass bottle on the edge of a bar. And I'm borrowing this from a television program, but it's a very good analogy. You could take, especially the movie ones, not the real ones. Real ones are very hard to break that way. We won't discuss how I know. But with the movie ones, you could smash a bottle inside the bar and it will crumble into useless shards. Just or you could smash a bottle on the edge, the bottom will fall off, a chunk will go with it, but you'll be left with a razor sharp, deadly though brittle weapon. And both can be seen to be the same bottle. These are usually the two outcomes initially from something like that I have found as someone who has been both physically and sexually assaulted numerous times. That can undo you and can turn you into something else. And the ability to inflict that is both the source and the target, the destination of some individuals. And many of them will train in things like martial arts. They will train in things like combatives. Sometimes it's social engineering, but it's the same mentality. Economics, same mentality. To take the power away and, if possible, crush them to shards. For whatever reason, that is what these people enjoy. And there will always be people like that. And when you've gone through it deep in your very soul, the words never again begin to echo. And they're either you unmake yourself to be something that is so low it can't be broken down, you destroy yourself, or in some way you harden, reshape, or weaponize yourself. These are the only responses I've seen. Initially. Optimally, there is healing that can be done. You look at it and go, I will be stronger, I will be better, not to become like them. A spiteful nobility. And that's where we get into the second definition of power. The second definition of power, and ironically, that which the people who pursue the first definition fear the absolute most, is the power to affect change. And I would go so far as to include personal sovereignty. And no, I'm not talking about those sovereign citizens. Hold on, let me bring this back up. Personal sovereignty. and the power to affect positive change. That's one of the big places I live. That's one of the big places what I look for lives. That's one of the big reasons that I have to have conventions to safely build someone who has been broken into something else. It gives a third option. It becomes a crucible, like a glass blower that takes a shattered bottle and makes it into a vase instead of a broken knife, or shapes it, tempers it, and turns it into a glass dagger. That becomes a matter of the individual and what they get from the crucible of learning, adaptive martial arts. But to do that, you have to have rules. And those rules get much more complex. They're more based on respect, patience, encouragement when it's needed, guidance when someone has gone too far afield. It is a different measure. It is much more therapeutic. This is why we have to have conventions. And if you are not if you are not participating with a group, you need to consciously design and dictate onto your self first and foremost. A set of conventions or your ego, your damage, and your emotions will do it for you. So before any of this, you need to think about these. Understanding these kind of concepts are, to me, the difference between a trainer, a coach, and like a sword master in this kind of thing. A trainer only worries about techniques. A coach is worrying on a level like this. And a master, a sword master, the high instructor is the one writing these consciously. It's one of the great dividers. Probably more so than practical application. Speaking of practical application, training. Why are you training? For tactical and strategic success. Practical situational survival first mentality. This is the flip to that side of the coin. This is the other side of the coin. This is the flip to it. This is where the military mindset kicks in. If you're training for this type of situation, you need conventions for discipline, consistency, and effectiveness. That's a whole different ballpark. In all the other concepts, you are training for as a secondary. You're fighting to win. You're training to understand history. You're training to heal, to adapt. And they may overlap, but this bottom one is the most primal and in many ways most problematically realistic aspect. Because at the end of the day, martial arts of any sort, certainly weapon-based martial arts, are simulating using technique and equipment as well as your own personal physical prowess to inflict damage and simulate the disabling and possible destruction of another individual or individuals in a given setting. That's the reality. And with that comes a tremendous moral weight. Because if it is pursued amorally, we go from having a potentially dangerous individual to having a deadly individual. And even if it's pursued with all the morals in the world, you still are in the creation of a truly deadly individual if the system involved is adequate to the task. This is military. Mercenary. And law enforcement. There are sliding scales to what they teach you. There are sliding scales to how effective, etc., how lethal it may be. But have no illusions. The techniques that can be learned are devastating, especially against unarmed individuals, especially against untrained, or in worst cases, unequipped, those unable to defend themselves. I like to speak of the sword as a protective agency. I like to speak of the sword as something with which people heal because I've seen it done. But I have to caveat the training sword. The training sword heals. The training sword preserves. The training sword empowers. The sharpened sword, the sharpened steel, it can defend. It does defend. But it absolutely destroys. There are reasons why someone who spent over a quarter of a century, over half his life, training in one weapon art or another, chooses to carry a walking stick as his primary defensive tool. I choose to wear the knife I wear because it is a tool first and foremost, long before it's a weapon. Because the price of anything else is currently too high for my spirit to endure. And if we are looking at extended martial training, it is necessary to understand that. Understanding philosophy does not require money. It requires time. It requires thought. It may require study, but fortunately, we have the internet, we have libraries, we have these beautiful things called books where you can read. You can read The Art of War. You can read The Art of War by Niccolo Machiavelli. You can read his treatise on the Prince. You could read George Silver's manual of defense. You can read George Patton's saber techniques. I encourage you to go through, read these things to educate yourself, regardless of what you play, regardless of what you do. Educate yourself in your mind and in your heart while you're doing this. Because it's very important to understand the tool set with which you are equipping yourself and the responsibility being equipped with that tool set requires. All right. Bit heavy. A bit heavy, I understand.
Powerful, important.
But a bit heavy. It needed to be said before I could go any further. And it's important. So you realize you've thought about it. On some level, you are at least seeking to begin your martial journey, etc. But Nick, training on the cheap, without any more philosophical soul destruction, please. Please. Okay, cool. I have met my moral obligation. Solo drilling requires a set achievable goal. You know what I mean? Goal. With measurable progress. Not get more accurate, but be able to hit a specific target a specific number of times in a specific my brain just farted. Time frame. So that would be hit a swinging tennis ball 10 times in 1 minute successfully. You need to have something you're aiming for. Something that you can test, track, and measure. You got to somehow document it. It doesn't necessarily need to be written paperwork, but you need to document your progress. Your progress honestly. Cool. Okay? That's the only way you're going to get better. Doesn't matter what system you pick. You're going to have to study it, and you're going to have to test yourself. You have to build yourself into someone solo. It may be a fixed goal. This was mine for years. 20 shots. Plus shoulder / high parry in. Oops, not in, should be from. From each guard position nightly. There we go. Be able to do that. Continue doing that. You establish a baseline. You maintain your baseline. I am now experimenting with going from 20 to 30 and or 2x to 3x sets. Because right now I'm exploring what works for me. That's what I'm doing. Now, to do all that, you need the part people want. Equipment. Folks, that was not what I was looking for. I think I was somewhere around 10. 10 work? 10 works. Okay, cool. We're going to just undo that. You're going to add that. You're going to multiply there. Now, I am going to pause what I'm doing for a moment. I'm briefly going to switch assets. Sorry about that. I haven't got my commercials over. I need to adjourn for a moment. So I will actually be running my ad. I will be back in a little over a minute. Okay, sorry about that. I'm a man of a certain age, and after a certain amount of time, I need to go around the corner. My apologies. Okay. Now we're at the part people will like more. SSOs. Sword simulating objects. Price? Hold on. Not live steel. Like my anger is vast and fathomless on the subject. Cheap as free. A stout stick. PVC. Flash piping. World of options. I've talked about this at length. If you guys want a full review on sword simulating objects, let me know. Cheapest off shelf. People ask me for my cheapest off the shelf. Hardware store. Dowel rods. I prefer 7/8 of an inch diameter. Usually 36-inch slash 3 foot slash 1 yard. About 1 meter. Bottom. I can go cheaper than that, but as a one shot, I have done staggering amounts of training with different dowel rods, especially personal. If you aren't poking somebody else, a dowel rod is a great trainer. If you have other people, chair feet. The best benefit of these are if you carry it around, it's basically a cane. No harm. The lathe waster is another option that oftentimes is even cheaper, but it takes a little bit of tooling. So, parts. 1 straight as desired. Some of you can use these to make curved ones. I don't care, but you want at least the blade flat. You get what I'm saying? Flat piece of wood lath. Wood lath is monstrously inexpensive, usually between around 1/4 of an inch by 1.25 inches by, or 1.5 inches, depending on the piece, by 3 feet chunk of wood. They usually run, right in the last I saw, 59 cents, 59 cents. Okay. So there's that. I would also include free wood floor samples. Okay? You can get those. Wood, you can use vinyl if you have the right glue. Oops, I don't know why I added that E. Something along those lines. Glue. And this is optional. This is optional. Come over here, and we're going to say glue. Again, easy as eating pancakes. I'm going to make my life fairly easy here. And I am going to do this. Okay. And I'm going to mark some things on here. First, we're going to mark not to scale. Okay. We will assume the length of this whole dude is 36 inches as described. This is where it gets interesting. You are going to go in about 6 inches. Okay. We can round off the tip. A lot of ways to do that. That's fine. About 3/8 here. About 3/8 here. And you are going to cut this and this. Tools. Oops. Why did I hit the wrong one? Tools needed. Tape measure. Slash ruler, because you don't need to measure the whole thing. You can take 4 to 6 inches off. You will need a drill, saw, or box cutter. Now, this is going to be your cross guard. Okay? You can cut that off. You are going to drill. You can find the center, that is. Figure out this distance. You're going to drill 2 holes about that distance apart and use your saw to cut that out into a slot. Then you are going to slide that cross guard up the middle. So that this is formed the blade. This is your tang. Now, once you have this piece, and it is the same, this is the same as the thickness of this, you can either take the pieces that you cut off, they cut off nice, and glue them along the tang, or you could take the secondary material, cut that shape out, and glue it along the tang. Do you understand? Any questions? So what that gives you is something vaguely shaped. It's going to look to some degree, and it depends on how much you, of course, cut off. I'm doing, again, not to scale, but you have some kind of piece glued. After that, you can do all sorts of things. You can weight this side to make that side come up. You can grip tape it somehow, but that's going to give you a very simple wooden waster that weighs next to nothing and will allow you to have something to poke your target with for a little bit of time and next to no money. And if you can secure the board elsewhere, like from the garbage of a construction site or something like that, easy as eating pancakes. Note, will not flex, will splinter if abused. Oops, give me a second. Here, we'll do that over. But it's a start, and it's a start you can do if you have nothing else. I will probably be renaming this stream because I called it Never Mind the Furthermore out of reflex. So, yeah, that's going to get renamed. Oh, I'm tired today. Okay. Minimum other options. Purple Heart, Armory, Basic Trainers. Amazon, Cold Steel, Poly Weapon, Polypropylene Weapons. You're looking at Wu Jiao. There are a bunch of other names. I cover them. There are a lot of videos. You can find that. I think it's Venti is PHA's fancy line. South Coast Sword / Black Fencer, if you have money. If you're going steel, I'm still going to recommend my old favorite Zen Warrior Armory / TSA. They always did right by me. TCA Triplet Competition Arms. Hanway Practical Rapier. There are a bunch, but these are ones I've worked with. These are ones I know, many of which I own. Depending on how crafty you are, you can save a lot of money. Real name fencing masks or tested helmets. Now this all, again, you look it up. Well, my new helmet, hold on, my new mask. I said helmet, I meant mask. Hold on. It's down here somewhere. I had trouble finding one that fit my head. This is my current brand new mask. It's got a standard 350 Newton resistance. I believe this is Blue Gauntlet. This is Leon Mark. I paid extra for the coaches, for Saber coaches. It's a little sturdier. I didn't go the full crazy, but more importantly, it has extra Velcro removable, pardon me, Iron Man flashing you guys. Lining. This lining, this is what most masks you get look like, basically. But this has some custom Velcro to receive additional padding. That also means my wife, whom I love, can take a pattern off of this beast, and if I turn out needing a bit more padding, she can make more padding, give it the same Velcro receiver, and upgrade it. Because this isn't about punch proofing, this is inside the mask. You don't have my wife, but perhaps you have your own skills or skills you can borrow. The benefit of this actually fits my melon of a head. I will be augmenting this a bit with back of the head protection, work in progress. I can fit a crochet nicely under this. I can fit a hood under this. It is a big mask. I can see nicely through it. I do not know how bad these glasses are going to fog, but I may get some Rain-X and squirt that on there. Should help. Fogging glasses being the bane of most people. This cost me $100-something. I spent money on myself for once. Be proud. You can find cheaper masks, but I would still stick to name brands that exist. 3-weapon masks are usually fine. There are HEMA masks that are better. The reason I'm not going full the HEMA fancy ones with the extra cover is one I need. For me, heat is a deadly threat, so I'm trying to redesign my armor around heat avoidance. I also, like I said, I have some crafting abilities, so I can make a lot of things that other people simply don't have the access to. But when I do, I will show you guys how I did it. For example, on one of my old rapiers, this was the saber guard I used. This is just mild steel that I cut out, smoothed out, sanded and filed to get nice round. It's got some rust on it. It has a glued on felt pad. This was actually a large moving pad, I believe. Add a little bit of impact protection. And to this day, I could take a standard square shank blade, pop it in there. I'd have to drill out a dowel rod. Originally, this had a pot handle, but put that in there and be good to go. Then you just throw a threaded on pommel. Easy as eating pancakes. I wanted you guys to see that because it's right there. Oh, let's get this. Gloves. Hold on. Let's bring this back up. You have options. You can take work gloves, welding gloves, welding gloves. And you can augment them. Add padding. Add plates. There are gauntlet patterns. Okay, you can look online, look up the Armor Archive and find simple gauntlet patterns and make your own out of acquired materials. Legally bought street signs. Sheet metal. HDPE. Oops. What's that? HDPE. Things like that. Lacrosse / hockey gloves. Lacrosse goalie gloves being the best in that category. tactical / armored gloves. Motocross, which is also another great place for gear. And of course, purpose built Red Dragon, personal / individual. Oh, I'm getting bad. It's getting late. Individual armorers. You can look them up. You can find them. Check reviews. Look for ones that SCA folks use. There used to be a gentleman by the name of Gruber who was amazing out of Chicago. I still, technically, he owes me a set of finger gauntlets, but that's neither here nor there. All right. Now, pardon me, my blood sugar's crashing a bit. I think I'm going to stop here. I'm going to have to do some editing to this. Probably rename it. That's fine. We will discuss body armor and personal protection later. Thank you guys for all who watched this. Let me see. We'll do that so I remember. Okay, we'll have to note for myself. Now, where are we coming? Oh, just a Russian bot. Hello, Russian bot. Guys, I hope this was educational. Pardon the typos in the setup. I'm glad we are where we need to be. We're going to fix a few things, and we're going to wrap this up in a bit. Let me see if I can fix this right now. Oh, I can. So I'm going to fix this live. I know this is thrilling content, but if I fix things now, they will be available later. I came running in and I made a typo. This is how we roll, folks. Copy. Where to go? And we're just going to fix this. On all of these real quick, because I realize I made a goof. And by fixing this, everything gets a bit better. There we go. And we'll save the changes. That should. There we go. Better late than never. Okay, guys. But it is getting late, and I do have quite a bit to do, and I need to rest. As I said, my blood sugar's not really happy with me. I will be tending to it a little more properly in just a minute, so please don't worry. But, guys, I hope this was educational. I hope it continues to be educational. Not enough people talk about the philosophy of defense. I think it needs to be discussed. And I think that's intrinsic to individual training. So guys, keep your guard up, do your drills, be kind to each other and yourselves, and thank you for supporting your local swordmaster. I'll be back next week with something. Hopefully the pre-recorded content I wanted to get underway. Did not expect today to go the way it did. To those asking, my dad is recovering well. He did not lose his finger. Is broken. So there's been a lot going on in the background. And I'm still dealing with ramifications. That's what love is. Taking care of my family. And taking care of the people who become my family. So guys, I will see you all very soon. Toodles.